Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Nick.
Good morning.
Good
Happy
morning.
New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, it's still a New Year.
Mhm. Yeah.
Our number.
What was it? Was it the first or second last? I'm trying to think. It was the second. Yeah, today's the 9th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still Happy New Year.
Gal is going to join us in a little bit. Spence is still traveling. He's on the way home, but he's on the road. Our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software, by DudeInIT.com, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. And yeah. Anyway, so what's happening, Nick? Other than, Nick, you've been having problems with your heat.
I'm not having problems with the heat. I mean, the heat's fine. It's just something weird going on with the thermostat and what it's calling for. So it's not really, but I do have a smart thermostat, and I'm starting to think maybe that is the culprit. So
you need to get what do you call it? Provigen, whatever they call it, the thing for memory.
Previgen. Yeah. Why don't?
Yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finally back in the swing of things. It's first full week of the year. I promise I'm not drunk. First full week of the year. So.
And you've been away, and it's back to routine kind of
Regularly scheduled program.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Which is good. And nothing wrong with that. I had a couple of interesting days this week. Uzi's ex wrote some things that she found in the house, and one of the things was a CCTV DVR for 4 channels.
Mhm.
An older one at that, of course. And she wanted to know if there's anything that you can do with that. So I started working on it, and it has a password that nobody knows.
Mm.
And the model that the manufacturer or the sellers is Lorian, which is being sold on Amazon. So I started reading and all that. Long story short, that company, apparently, it looks like they're out of business. In order to reset the password, you need to write them and let them know what is the date on the screen. And then they'll send you an unlock, a reset code.
Interesting. So they must bake it into the unit based on the date.
Apparently.
Interesting.
So the date was December 31st, 2000.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
that was the manufacturing date?
No. That's you know how if your battery dies on the computer, it'll go back to 1999 or something like this. The clock.
Yeah, but the clock shouldn't have gone to December.
Well, that may be when they start theirs. I have no idea.
Hmm.
But I wrote, I didn't hear. I waited a day, I didn't hear. In the meantime, I was reading, and there is some guy on YouTube that has all kind of super password generators, and it works the same way. So here's and he explains. I mean, very very good video. And you download the programs, and he explains how to do it. And sure enough, you run the first one, and it says, "Okay, what's the date?" And you enter it, and it gives you a code. That didn't work. The second one didn't work. The third one didn't work. Um, and every 3 times or 4 times, it locks the account, so you have to unplug it, plug it back. So I spent a long time on it and realized, this is really not worth it.
Yeah.
It's an older unit. It will probably never figure that out, and the company is not going to help. So toss it aside. Then there was a PTZ dome camera,
Like one that
which
you would mount in the ceiling, the little with the
yeah, but
black orb on it.
outside, outdoors. One
Oh,
of
okay.
those real heavy ones with a bracket that holds it. Um, it's nice, you turn it in, you turn it on, and it spins and spins and stops. But then I was trying to find information about it, and next to impossible. I found something. It looks like it. There's no way to tell how to control it. There are some wires hanging off of it that nowhere could I found any information on. And just trying, shorting this, shorting that, just to see any kind of movement, nothing. So I said, well, this is probably, and I know it's not HD because I plugged it into what was it? Oh, I plugged an HD camera into that DVR and it couldn't see it.
Okay.
But when I plugged this one into the DVR, it it saw it. So I said, okay, so that's probably one of the older analog ones. So play with it. Figured, maybe I can do something with it and put it over there. But no, it's just amazing that how and here it is. Yeah, he may have had the papers somewhere how to do this, how to do that, but so far she didn't find it. And when you get a piece of hardware like this, there's nothing you can do with it. So
Yeah.
if you
Documentation's tough.
absolutely you need it's tough and it's very, very important. So if you have any kind of hardware like this, keep the documentation somewhere where people know where it's at. Your family knows where it's at. Somebody would know. So if God forbid something happens, or if you wanted to sell it, you know where to get the the documentation. Because I mean, I'm sure that camera is good for somebody. Um, it looks like it's a real expensive camera. Got a nice lens all the way from 3 millimeter to 30 some of zoom. I mean, it's a shame to toss something like this aside because there's just no information about it. There's no name on it. There's nothing. So
Well, let me
documentation.
make I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, so it's important to keep documentation. You were going to
And
say,
I make another suggestion.
yeah,
If you have a piece of obviously if you're buying a standard piece of hardware, right? It's got documentation, you can probably find it online. Um, if you have a weird piece of hardware like that, and I know you do, Amnon.
yeah.
Maybe this is a little project for you. Scan those things and put them on archive.org. A
Oh,
lot
you
of
mean
people
the actual manual?
a
So
lot of people
yeah,
have been scanning over it's been a movement over the past probably decade or so of and it's not even just documentation. For example, um old computer uh, 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 devices, mice and things like that that needed drivers for Windows 3.1 and things like that, where it would be on a floppy disk. There's this big movement of people taking, they find these things at Goodwill or something like that.
Hmm.
They buy it, they have working drivers, they rip the drivers and put them on something like archive.org, because obviously the company is not in business anymore.
Right.
um, Things of that nature. So there's been a big move to do that, and there's a whole bunch of really good stuff on archive.org.
Yeah, and you do it not for your own sake only, but you do
Well,
it
for
for
your own
other
sake too.
people's.
And if you
Yeah,
lose your paperwork, you can pop over to
right.
archive.org and find it. But you would be surprised at how much old software drivers and things of that nature for really, really old, unique peripherals and things of that nature and manuals are on archive.org.
Hmm. A
There's
lot
almost a
of stuff. Yeah.
million pieces of software on archive.org.
Yep. And hopefully they'll never lose their funding. I mean, I've every now and then when they send in the requests for donation, you give because I use them. I archive all the
Yeah.
audio and video over there, and actually it became real handy. Um, and I remember when I was telling you that I I have two files that lists all. I update every week. I update two files with all that information. One from the normal YouTube and all that, and one from archive. And when YouTube said to take down those videos that had something about COVID in them, and I got a warning strike or whatever. Uh, yeah, I went ahead and took them down, but I said, people may want to watch them. So I went into the file. I deleted them from YouTube, deleted them from the regular file, and then went and got the two lines from archive and plugged them into my list of videos. So these particular two programs are actually you're watching them from archive.org, not from YouTube. All the
Hmm.
other videos on demand are coming from YouTube. So it's nice. I mean, okay, yeah, I'll take it down, fine. But so YouTube doesn't have it, but on Nissan Communications, it exists. They That's the nice thing is that they don't take it down. And I found out. I mean, YouTube is the only one that did that. Facebook, I mean, automatically being saved. I never go look, but nothing. I didn't hear a thing. So I don't think they look at any of that stuff close. I think if it has the word COVID-19 in it, okay, no. So anyway, um,
Yeah, great resource. You'd be and a lot of times some of that archive.org stuff won't show up on a Google search. So
which is fine.
you might need to play around,
Eh,
and they don't have the best search
no, they don't.
algorithm in the world.
Right.
So you might have to play around with it and be patient. But
Yeah.
yeah,
They
lots of good
working
stuff there.
on it all the time. They
Yeah.
update it and tweak it and all kind of stuff. Yep.
So maybe a little bit of tip if anybody's got any spare time and has some unique hardware with a unique manual, might not be a bad idea to or software, old drivers and things of
Yep.
that nature.
Put it there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
see if it's there first. If it's already there, great. If it's not, throw it up there.
All right. So listen to this. It's hard to imagine home life without the internet, particularly amid the coronavirus pandemic. Now, a law going into effect in Washington state is acknowledging that. Starting this year, home sellers in Washington will be required to share their internet provider on signed disclosure forms that include information about plumbing, insulation, and structural defects. Does the property currently have internet service? The disclosure form will now ask, along with a space to say who the provider is. The law doesn't require sellers to detail access speeds, quality, or alternative providers. The new disclosure is the latest in an array of efforts by lawmakers across the country to respond to our increasing reliance on home internet connectivity for work, education, and entertainment. That internet connection has become even more critical, like we all know, during the pandemic, which has upended the lives of billions of people, forcing quarantines and blah, 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 blah. So now, if you want to sell a house, you have to say, you have to declare that you have internet and who the
Who
provider
cares?
is. Well, I mean, a lot of people when they look for houses, they look for something with internet, and they want to have
Yeah, I mean,
high
I did the
speed.
same thing.
Yeah.
You just go to the company's websites and put in the address. That's why I don't understand who is going to do anything with this. It sounds like the lawmakers are trying to do something with this
No, no,
information.
no. This is if you sell a house. So I
Yeah, but you
go.
said it. But from the story, you said something about it's lawmakers'
It's
attempt to.
Oh yeah, they're trying to make it easy for people to find the house. When you find a house, you're not getting surprised by, oh, but there's no internet here.
I mean, I
So
guess.
yeah, I mean, most people that need it would ask
Yeah,
while
I mean, I
they're
didn't even
buying.
ask. I just went to Spectrum's website and went to AT&T's website when I was
Yeah.
looking at the property and saw that AT&T was here.
Well,
That turned
this
out to be a
now in
disaster, but
Washington, you have to declare it and actually
hmm,
say that, yep, I have such and such. I have internet, and this is the provider.
it's very odd.
Yeah, Washington State is odd.
Well,
I hope.
yeah, I mean that was kind of my point anyway. Because if there's multiple
So
providers in an area and you just have one, then maybe it's a bad thing for competition by the sounds of it. Because now
yeah,
maybe you won't go do your research.
right. And shame on you if you don't do your own research anyway,
Well,
even if you
that was
see
kind
it.
of my
Yeah,
point
yeah,
anyway. Was I don't really
yeah,
see a use case for this because if you're going to go and if you're working from home, you're full time, but your job is now working from home, and you're going to buying a house, and you didn't look to see what internet is available from what providers at what prices. Well, then shame on you. I
yeah.
mean, it's not the previous
Absolutely,
owner's fault. You're incompetent.
absolutely, absolutely.
Interesting.
So and you followed the epic trial and all of about gaming. And
Yep.
so, I mean, this has to do again with Apple, and their troubles are not over. Now, Indian antitrust watchdog ordered an investigation into Apple's business practices. In particular, the company mandating iPhone app developers to use the proprietary payment system. In India, where the American firm commands less than 2% of the smartphone market. So now India is going to look into it and find out whether they're going to do something about it. And I mean, 2%, they're going to do whatever they want over it in India. They're going to say, hey, you can't do that. The Competition Commission of India, which ordered the Director General to conduct the probe within 60 days, said it is of the view that the mandatory use of Apple in-app payment system for paid apps and in-app purchases restricts the choice available to the app developers to select the payment processing system of their choice, especially considering when it charges a commission of up to 30% for app purchases and in-app purchases. So it seems like other countries now, after Epic did it with Apple, other countries are going into it, not waiting for private companies to sue or to demand, but here the government. And that I don't know that. I mean, I don't know what nobody has a crystal ball to know, but uh, even if they were successful, I don't know that it will do something for our situation here. And I don't know where our situation here. Last thing I read is a judge said, "Oh, Apple doesn't have to change the way that they do things on the App Store with all
Yeah.
the." And that's kind of a shame because it gives them more of a push to be arrogant. But this is how the big guys play. Um, this is interesting. The new version of Samsung's Echo remote features, RF harvesting capability that lets the remote preserve its charge by collecting routers radio wave and converted them to energy. That's coming from the Verge. It can also be charged with solar energy. So you have a remote in the living room, and instead of having to put two AA's or AAA batteries in it, it charges itself from the RF energy that's in the air.
Yeah. I read about this. I don't know if it was this week or last week.
Yeah,
It's an interesting, and there, you can, well, you had what? You had a fire alarm that
yeah,
was, didn't you have a fire alarm that
yeah.
was slowly charging over time?
But it was a fire alarm that we disconnected because it went bad, but I didn't want to take it out off the wall, off the ceiling, because it would leave. I thought that it would leave a ring, and this was done over 10 years ago. And every now and then, we will hear the beep, and we didn't know where it's coming from. I never thought about this. No batteries in it, no nothing, and it would beep every now and then.
Yeah, something was charging it.
Yeah, somehow it was getting charged. Yeah, so I mean, batteries, rechargeable batteries, like the little coin ones, will get charged if left alone.
Yeah, the
If
problem
you
is they don't charge quick.
No, 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 and they
But I
don't
guess I
and they don't charge
but
full.
I guess these new types of remotes will have circuitry to help that. I'm not sure how that's. I assume they're just
Yeah,
going to have a bunch of capacitors charging.
I have no idea, but it's. I mean, you will not get a battery to fully charge just out of nowhere.
No, you don't need it to fully charge as long
Right.
as, for example, a television remote. How often are you pressing buttons on a television?
Right. And the thing is that even if the batteries are down to zero point 0.6 volts, it'll still work.
Yeah.
So it's it's a nice concept. We have to wait and see when people talk about it what what they say. I mean, so far it's just news. They say, yeah, we have that. Well, yep.
I've got an interesting story here.
Okay.
You're a you were probably at once a big fan of Norton, their antivirus software. It was
Yeah.
very popular in the 90s. And
Yep.
uh, what was his original software called? It was like the Norton kit or something like that.
Norton Utilities.
Norton Utility, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people, by the way, have moved away from Norton, but there is for personal use, but for corporate use, there's still security suites and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was reported earlier this week that Norton has been introducing and has been implementing a cryptocurrency miner
Right.
in its version of Norton 360, and it was turning it on by default.
Mm-hmm.
So that was reaching many people as a huge issue. So this, I don't know if it was turned on by default, but it was installing it by default.
Yeah.
Which it does say which is now getting enabled by default.
It installs it by default, but
well, this article over at Guru 3D says ever since last year they've been experimenting with crypto mining, which is now getting enabled by default, and they're doing it silently.
They don't let you know that they installed it, but they say they don't turn it on. It doesn't do anything unless you specifically opt in.
This guy's claiming that it's automatically on.
Okay.
So what is the problem with this? Well, first of all, your antivirus software should not be installing a cryptocurrency miner.
No, it should not.
Is, for all intents and purposes, you could claim is in fact a virus.
Sure.
So that's a problem. The second thing, there is some question whether it's being turned on by default. And the second, well, the one of the biggest problems I see here is cryptocurrency mining takes a lot of resources from your computer.
Sure.
So you can now be experiencing, and by the way, if you were already running Norton antivirus, your computer was probably already incredibly slow because it's very inefficient at what it does. So looking at all of that, and the worst part is Norton is cashing out on it. They're apparently taking 15% of whatever you generate. So I don't know what they were thinking. You know, it makes sense. You've got millions of, but they're essentially building a botnet of cryptocurrency mining.
Yeah.
It's no
exactly
different
what it is.
It's no different than a botnet virus. At least that's how I see it.
And it uses electricity.
It uses electricity, it uses resources. It lowers the life of your hardware if you're running it constantly. I mean, there's lots of things in there that should be a huge wake-up call and a huge. Here's the thing: nobody should be surprised that Norton was doing this, and anybody that's still running Norton antivirus. Well, I don't want to be rude about it, but you reap what you sow.
And if you have Norton 360, look for a file called encrypt ncrypt.exe, and
if you have Norton 360.
Okay, yeah.
Cancel your subscription and find new antivirus.
Yeah, absolutely. And
to me, it seems as clear as day and as simple as that. I don't know why you would trust security to a company that is. Here's the thing. If they would have been more upfront and more open and put a big notice right when you updated it to Norton, they said, hey, there's this new feature. If you're interested, you could make some money. We'll also make some money.
Yeah.
There would not have been that big of a thing. But they tried doing it behind the scenes. They tried getting away with it, which was stupid because who is managing Norton 360 installs? Tech nerds that work at companies in the IT department. I mean, they knew they were going to get caught. They knew 100% they were going to get caught, and they just didn't seem to care.
Yeah.
That
hindsight, they would probably say we shouldn't have done it, but hey.
Well, here's the thing. They could have done it. I don't have a problem with them doing it. But when you update to the most recent version, just like when you update something and it says, what's new in this feature? Just put it right out and open. And then there's no question, there's no concern. But when you shove it in the back door and it's not found out by some guy who tries to turn off the tamper protection and sees, what the hell is Norton Crypto and crypto? And why is it using resources? It's a huge problem.
It is. If you're
running Norton, I would highly recommend finding. Well, I would just use the built-in antivirus, but find something else.
Defender works great. and if you are really hard on using Norton, we found out years ago that when the computer slows down, you uninstall it and reinstall it, and then the computer will run faster for a while and then start slowing down again. But yeah, I agree with Nick. Find something else.
And I assume most of the people running Norton 360 are probably running it in a corporate environment, um, which makes it even worse. In
Or
my
if a
opinion,
lot, I mean, now it's together with LifeLock, so a lot of people,
it is.
get that and they say, okay, well, I get that, and let me run this.
Yeah. I mean, Norton has been an untrustworthy company for quite
Long
some time.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
they're still have a huge market share.
it's no longer Peter Norton that's putting it out. It's been a long time since he was involved in it.
Yeah. Well, between Peter Norton and John McAfee, who's now dead, it's very interesting to see what has happened with these with these
Is that
developers
so?
of antivirus. John
Yeah.
McAfee's hanging out with prostitutes in Zimbabwe or wherever, and then gets killed, and then Peter Norton is out of the scene as well.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
No,
These guys made a fortune in the
Oh, yeah.
80s and 90s with this software. I mean, they made
Absolutely.
a freaking fortune.
But these days, seriously, Defender works great.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd buy antivirus in 2022.
Yeah. Well, if I don't know that Defender for Windows 7 or Windows 8 is as good as the one that they bake into uh, Windows 10. So you may need something if you're using older operating system. But most people these days, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason it's used in a corporate environment for people that are listening and might be wondering, well, why at work do I have antivirus installed is because Defender doesn't offer management. For example, if you're in a corporation with even 50 computers and you use Defender everywhere, well, that's fine and dandy. But if you're in the IT department, you have no way to know if somebody's got a virus or something. And that's the reason that the companies use things like Norton 360, Sophos, and WebRoot, and all these other things, is because there's a management dashboard, and those AVs on the individual endpoints call home and say,
Mhm.
hey, this computer's got a virus. Hey, this computer's got something that might be malicious. And then the IT people can jump in and solve it.
And do
So
something.
that's the
Yeah.
unfortunate part about Defender is it doesn't have that. So it leaves corporations no choice but to buy and subscribe to a service because there's no endpoint manager.
Oh, that's a very, very good point.
That's an
Hey, Gal.
endpoint.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
kind of on the
You're-
low side.
You're a little low, but we can hear you.
I don't know if I can control it. I'm using a different machine. All my broadcasting setup isn't set yet. So
It's low. You don't. It took a long time for you to switch on.
low. Okay, how about now?
Yeah, it's getting
There you
louder.
go.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
So, which machine are you using?
I'm using both right now. Well, not both. So this is going to be annoying. Give me a sec.
Does this have anything to do with the Dell?
Yes,
Machine?
yes. I haven't set up my broadcast on the main machine.
Oh.
Give me just one moment.
No.
No?
Sorry. No.
Okay, I'm going. One moment.
Let's see what else we have here. Nick, Erie County, New York. Nearly 1 million people live there. And their legislator just approved a new public corporation to bring the county a 500-mile high-speed fiber optic internet network, making them one of the largest municipalities in America operating this kind of a backbone. Um, what is special? I have no idea. What is special about Erie County in New York? Nick?
Um,
Is it?
Buffalo.
Oh,
Yeah, Buffalo. Erie County is Buffalo, which is maybe the third largest city in the state.
hmm.
I guess I would assume it's New York, Albany, and then Buffalo, or maybe it's New York, Buffalo, Albany. It's the third. It's within the it's with
Yeah,
it is within the top 3 cities in the state, and
yeah, but
obviously,
we're talking about the county.
yeah. But I'm saying
Yeah.
Buffalo is in Erie County, so it's
Okay.
it is one of the largest geographical areas in the state. I mean, Buffalo makes up 35% of the county's population. So
It,
and it's also right on the border of course, Canada.
yeah.
So there's a lot that goes on there.
There were in there. They were talking about the fact that the only thing available is Spectrum, and they want to have competition. So this
Yeah,
this
well,
is
it's good.
nice that I mean, here in North Carolina, it will never happen. They tried it, and legislator voted it down because Time Warner back then
Well,
lobbied.
that was a different era of the legislature.
Yeah.
And we've got different control now in North Carolina. And
Yeah.
don't be surprised if you see something like that pop up again.
Yeah, that would be nice if if they did do that.
Okay, I think I can participate now.
What was wrong?
I'm I'm using a Windows laptop for the audio video, and I'm using my machine for the rest of it. That's why internally you see 2 sessions. So
Oh,
I had the audio loop back when I was speaking. So I just switched to the laptop right now. Uh yeah, so I switched from Windows to Linux, an Ubuntu based OS, and most of the things up until now were perfect. But today I realized I haven't set up any video conferencing still through this. And the thing is, I have a really crappy, a very cheap webcam. It's a 4K webcam, but it was a cheap type. And on the Windows machine, I would use OBS and I would crop it. Now I tried doing it with the Linux this morning, and looks like I need some drivers or something. Haven't set that up yet, so it took me some time to set up. That's why I joined so late. But I'm now here.
are you trying to set up a uh permanent thing with that thing, or is it just for today?
Right now, it's a permanent thing. I'll set up that. Right now, it's a temporary thing. I'll set up a permanent thing later on. I'll play with it. There's probably a driver that I need to download or something. The thing is, the OS itself is it's called Zorin Os. The latest version issued around May this year. It's based on the kernel and the base of the Ubuntu 2004 long-term support image. That means that some of the technology of in it, everything that has to do with low-level drivers and stuff like that, that's hooking up to the kernel, that's 2 years old. I tried a newer OS before I switched to Zorin, but it was half baked. It wasn't ready for for full use. There were some issues, and so I decided to base the OS on the 2004 LTS. Learned a lot in the process about how there's when choosing a Linux OS, there's so many distributions, right?
Yeah.
And what you need to find is you need to find the balance between the features that the distributions are geared towards, right, and the convenience they provide. And there's a lot going on with Linux all the time. There's so many development efforts going on around. Now, the thing is, when it comes to audio and video, Linux has always been a bit behind, right? Because it's so complex. I mean, you by running the radio show for so many years, right? You've seen how intricate audio settings and video settings, latency, bitrate, encoders. There's so many things going on in just a very simple stream. And because most of it has been developed for Windows, right, or Mac, there's always been fueled by these commercial entities. When it comes to the open source world, it took a while for it to catch up, but apparently it's getting there. It's getting there, and it's still not perfect, but it's workable. So right now, the only thing I'm missing is to fix that, and I know it's workable. I know I can. I've seen it working with the new version that I've installed previously. So either I'll need to wait a bit for it to be perfect. The next LTS kernel is going to come out in April. So if I might need to fiddle and wait until April or May to get everything settled in, but overall I'm pretty happy with the setup. So
Yeah, and my advice: don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't look for it to be.
no,
It never will be.
no, it's not about perfect. I already know what are the components that I need. I just need to figure out how to make them work in this system.
Yeah.
If it won't work in this system, then I need to reinstall to a system that will have it. I needed this machine to do a few things. And one of the things I didn't take into account is to test the audio video immediately at the start. What
No.
I do have with this system compared to my previous Windows system is I have reliability, I have durability. And so the reason I chose an Ubuntu 2004 based OS is it has ZFS. I talked about ZFS in the past. It has ZFS support out of the box, and this on top of it, it has snapshotting baked into the system, ZFS snapshotting that allows me to basically rewind, go back in time to any point without actually it costing me too much storage. The way it does it is the file system is right on uh, it's a copy on write. So instead of overwriting the same blocks over and over again, it always writes into a new block. And if there's modification done, it writes a new block copying with only the modification done. So what this allows, it allows basically rewinding history as long as you have free space. And the moment it needs to start to reclaim that space, right, then it starts to overwrite those blocks. But that allows you a lot of leeway. So unlike the
And
traditional model,
is the ability to rewind and go to an older version built into the OS, or you need to?
it's built into the file system, and the
Wow,
kernel and the file system is hooked up to the kernel. So yes,
nice.
and the OS, like every time I do APT is the package management, right? So every time I do an install, an update, the system takes a snapshot of itself. If something went wrong, let's say a new kernel was like the base, the root of the OS, a new kernel has been installed on the boot partition, the boot pool, and it breaks, it doesn't work. I just reboot it. In the boot menu, I say, hey, boot the previous version. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
I got the previous version. I got the exact state before the reboot. And not only that, is I didn't lose the state going forward. So if I made modifications in my personal files, for example, not system files, right? I made modifications before that boot, and now I'm going back to this previous state. I can still, the forward one is still mounted. I can copy out from it, and I can say, okay, let's make this the new state and go forward, right? I'll remove the unstable state. So the going back and forth, and everything that I'm describing here, I mean, Windows sort of has something called shadow volume copy, and but Windows does it by actively copying, making copies of everything. So every time you write to a file, there's in the background there's a copy process that happens, and I mean, we've seen disks get full because of shadow copy that needs to be removed. The recovery process not being so so friendly. But not only that, is if we go to the recovery process, we recover to an old system, we lost the current state, right? We're going back, we're completely copying over a previous state, and it takes time because we need to actually copy previous state into the new, right? Override things. Here, it's just a pointer that I can go back and forth in time. So
Nice.
that's
Nice.
the durability part, right? Or maybe that's even the reliability part. The durability part comes from the fact that ZFS can also do uh, disk pooling, and so like a RAID controller,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I have two NVMEs in this machine. Both of them are the same size. They're actually the same model, right? And I haven't enabled it yet because I still have the old Windows OS data on the one. But when I'm ready and when I'm stable and when I don't need the old data, which I think I've already copied everything that I need, it's going to act as a mirror of the root NVMe. So I'll have two NVMEs mirrored all the time. It won't affect performance because writing to the bus is in parallel. And not only that, is if one of the NVMEs fail, right, it'll still boot because the pool is built
Yeah.
by two NVMEs, and it will be able to boot even from the second NVMe. So that's what I really wanted from my Windows system on the get-go. And Windows doesn't supply that option. I mean, you might get away with some sort of RAID controller that might be able to do that for you, but then you're relying on hardware that might fail as well. Here, it's all standard hardware. All I need is to make sure that both NVMEs are bootable.
And I think they have to be the same.
Well, they have to have the same. They don't need to be the same, but they need to be the same capacity, right?
Yeah.
They don't need to be the
Okay.
same
Yeah.
geometry. They don't necessarily need to
Right.
be the same geometry. It helps. It helps in performance if they are the same geometry. But yeah. So
All right. Question.
yeah. So now this machine, this is a 2016 Alienware. Okay, so uh, it was when I bought it originally, the purpose was gaming. My son was at home, and he was gaming on this machine quite a lot. This was the gaming machine at home, and I didn't want to lose that capability, even though I'm not I'm not playing a lot of games, but from time to time I do boot up a game. And most of gaming happens on Windows, right? There are support for Linux. Steam has a very interesting coverage of Linux. But when it comes to gaming, Windows is the winner. But not anymore. Well, I mean, they're still the winner. I won't lie. They're still like the best solution for gaming. Better than Mac, better than Linux, better than unless you're talking about console games. But Linux being open, being a community, being community driven, there are quite a few applications that are geared into making Windows gaming possible on Linux. And these systems, there's one system in particular that I've already tried, Lutris, is very, very interesting. Because it not only focuses on Windows gaming, it focuses on basically any emulation gaming at all. You can run Switch games, you can run PlayStation games, you can run Windows games, obviously. From different system, it hooks up to your gaming accounts on Steam, on GOG, Good Old Games, and it's just point and click. Everything is, if something isn't working and it's a popular game and the community is active, then it'll be fixed really quickly. If not, then you can go and research and figure out. And the moment you figure out how to fix it, right, you share it with the community, and everybody gets a win out of it. So it's a fun little exploration that I'm going through.
All right, but there's one thing it cannot do.
What can it do? Coffee?
No, it cannot on its own position your light correctly.
You're talking about the reflection on my glasses.
No, I'm talking about the shadow on your left cheek from
shadow on my left.
Yeah, it's from the
Okay.
it's from the no, it's way on your right, isn't it? The light is way on the right.
It's always been there. The camera moved a bit, so that's why.
Well, I don't know. You
the
need to
camera
move
used
it.
to be next to the light. Now it's
you need
to
to
the
move,
side of it.
You need to move the light more to the center.
Yeah, I can't right now. There's a screen in the middle.
Oh, so it's not on one of those
no
scissors. So
right now I'll need to deal with it. Don't have.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, you're talking about what happens
Yeah.
next to my nose.
Well, no, on the below the glasses, and it's
it's a very prominent nose. So
no, that's not why. I mean, it's because the light, and it's it's an intense light. It's a very strong light, and that's why it's doing it.
Yeah, but I can't. If I'll I can turn it softer, but if I will, then the image isn't going to be good.
Yeah, don't worry about it now. Just remember that. Well, nice.
It's just so you'll know if I'm lying or not. If it moves, I'm lying.
I'm trying to see. No, I can't see anything. Mine is more prominent than yours.
I'll talk like this.
Oh man. Anyway. So the hardware is fine. Nothing else.
Everything started because a PSU died, and on top of the PSU, after replacing it, the OS wouldn't boot. Which, by the way, when I got home and reseated everything, it did boot after I've already started the exploration of Ubuntu.
It's fine.
So theoretically, I could have gone back, but I liked it too much to go back. So I'm sticking with it.
So Nick, when are you switching to Ubuntu for gaming?
I stepped away.
Oh.
We'll drill him when he gets back.
Yeah, but It's
Did you,
interesting and it's
Did
exciting.
you get to talk?
What?
Did you get to talk about the goldfish driving,
No.
navigating land?
No.
Okay, that's our next topic.
Okay.
So I got this link from our friend Sarid, and this is about an experiment. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember exactly where. I'll look for it in a second. But what they did is they equipped an aquarium, and depending on where the goldfish is in the aquarium, they equipped the aquarium with basically a robot underneath it, right?
Mhm.
So it's on wheels and some controllers, and the controller is based on the movement of the goldfish within the bowl. It's not a bowl; it's an aquarium, a square aquarium. So wherever the goldfish is, they affect the movement of
That robot.
yeah. So this is like old school experiments with the chimpanzees and stuff like that, where you would give them a set of puzzles, or you will test the intelligence of the animal. Here they did it with goldfish in a bowl, navigating land, navigating our world, and apparently they don't suck at it. It wasn't random, completely random. At the beginning, it was random until they learned it, right? But they figured out how to navigate land.
Saying that the goldfish is actually seeing the robot as it moves,
The goldfish is seeing the world through the aquarium.
but is the bottom
The
clear?
bottom is no.
How does
the
he
bottom
learn?
isn't-
How does he learn it?
When he moves inside the bowl,
Yeah.
the aquarium, the entire aquarium moves. So wherever he wants to go, right?
Oh,
think
oh,
about a Segway for
Okay.
goldfish.
All right. I thought you said that there was a little robot under the aquarium.
Well,
that was
it's
moving.
under, but it's like it's moving the entire aquarium.
It's sitting on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is like.
So when are you going to do something like that?
I'm not.
I'll
but
get you the
I
goldfish.
did find it.
I'll get you the
Really-
goldfish.
I mean, navigating land by swimming, right? That's what we're hearing here. This is meta in so many levels, but it's like there are still things that we can learn.
Yeah. All right. I want Nick to get back because he has some problems with his eating.
Hi.
Hey,
I figured out my issue.
what?
The outdoor unit's not turning on.
At all?
Heat or cool. So that's why the aux heat's turning on. So
one
that's a
thing.
problem to troubleshoot.
One thing that happens is, if that happens many times when the tray under in the air handler gets full of water, but that happens in the summer. There's a float that comes up and up if it doesn't drain, and it shuts it off.
Interesting.
The
I'll
other
go up
thing
in the
is,
attic and maybe check.
and I don't know how you can do it. It's if it doesn't come on, it.
I can hear the motor try to spin on
Okay,
that,
no,
you know, that
okay,
sound that the
great. So that's it. So it's the capacitor. That's what I was
Yeah,
going
'cause
to say. I don't know how
I
you
hear when an air conditioner first turns on, that.
Yeah, yep. That's the capacitor.
I hear that.
That's
the fan doesn't.
Yeah.
The fan doesn't spin, but it tries to.
that's the capacitor.
28 microfarad capacitor, something like that.
Is that a solvable problem, or do I need to call an HVAC professional?
No.
You can replace the capacitor on your own.
You can, if you've never done it before. I'd rather you don't do it because
that's
that's
what
a lot
YouTube is for.
Yeah, so I had a similar issue.
Yeah.
It was before it died. I had like an AC.
My unit's brand new, by the way. That's part of the thing. It's less than 2 years old.
It can happen though.
Yeah, it doesn't
the
matter.
Capacitor
I think that specifically doesn't matter. So I had an AC tech do a review of the system, and he found that the microfarad, the I don't remember, it's 14 or 20 or 18 or 28 or something like that. Microfarad capacitor wasn't up to par, and he explained he can replace it for, I don't know, $150, or I can buy it for $15 on Amazon or something and replace it on my own. Yeah. I think this is the only do-it-yourself like deep tech AC that I've ever done, and it was really.
So I've replaced capacitors in HVAC units before, just not I've done it in commercial units, not home units. But yeah, that's standard. It's a big copper. It's a big silver cap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I guess I can go out there and test continuity on it and see if it's a working cap or not.
Yep.
So, can I switch the subjects?
Yes.
Yeah. Here, Nick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It looks like this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've replaced in commercial units before.
Yeah. So you just I did replace it, and what I always did is I would take a picture of the one in there right now, what was plugged where, and I don't know this is like 40 plus 5 microfarad. There are different ones. You need to look at the one that's in there, and
and you can test it with a multimeter.
I wouldn't even bother. Because that's what it is.
Go and buy
your symptom.
Sure.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
that's
maybe
what
I
it
can
does.
Fix that today. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, because that's what the capacitor does. It when you put the voltage onto the compressor outside, it's not enough. So the capacitor kind of like gives it a kick. That's what it is. Yeah. It's a start capacitor.
And it's funny because when I hear that, the fan spins like maybe a quarter of a revolution and then stops.
Yeah. So actually, you really want to turn the system off. I mean,
it's off. It's off.
It's not
because it keeps trying to start. God knows how long it's been trying to start like that.
And that's not good.
Give it a push.
Yeah.
Yeah. You I switched it over to. I switched it over to cool and it didn't turn on.
Same thing. So. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you can go to Home Depot and find it. Or maybe even at Walmart. I don't know. You can find it.
There's a refrigeration store here that you can buy stuff from.
Today?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not worried about it.
It's
currently let's see. It's 71 degrees in Wilmington right now, so I think I'm good to go at least for the next little bit. And the aux heat still works, so.
No. But remember one thing: when you turn it on for the aux heat, it's trying to start the generator, and that's not good.
No, I can put it in emergency heat mode, and it'll turn the heat pump off. That's what I'll just do if I need to.
All right, if you can do that, then that's fine.
Yeah, emergency. That's what emergency heat is, I think. So we shall see.
All right. Good. So go ahead. Yeah, you wanted to go to
Gal. Mm-hmm. I'm a new man.
Oh, Z-Wave. Yeah,
Z-Wave. So I got my. Hold on a second. I'll talk for Z-Wave for a second. Let me go grab the sensor.
Okay, so just a reminder. Nick just bought last week. He bought a Z-Wave controller, home automation stuff.
Zeus.
The Zeus controller, yeah. And this week he got his first Z-Wave device. If I recall correctly, the leak detector. I'm guessing he went to bring it to put it on screen. And he contacted me with, Nick, you contacted me this week. You had the initial trouble of joining it to the network. You figured it out. We figured it out really quickly.
Yeah, it was interesting. So if I pull up I don't know where I put it. Oh yeah, the instruction. No, that's not it. The thing that came with it.
Yeah,
it had a couple of different ways to pair it. There was a QR code that you could import. I imported the QR code, and then it said to put it in pairing mode, which is just a little button on the board. And I put it in the pairing mode, and it it kept joining the network, and it would join for like a minute, and then it would drop off, and then it would say, all right, ID 5, and then ID 6, and ID 7. It would keep joining. So I deleted everything, and then I couldn't get it to repair. So that's when Gal told me to exclude it from the system. And then I was able to pair it without the QR code with just the button, and it connected.
So that QR code, the purpose of it has to do with security. So Z-Wave, very old standard by now, like 15, 20 years at least, in commercial use. And when it started out, right, as a wireless solution for internet, for smart automation, uh, low, so on efficiency, low voltage, those are the things that drive the design of the protocol. Security wasn't one of them. Security wasn't part of
a lot of stuff.
any networking protocol to start with, which is always sad, but we're dealing with it now.
They were trying to figure out how to make it work. They didn't care about security.
Sort of, yeah. So one of the things Z-Wave does, Z-Wave is a mesh network. So anything that is hooked up to power in Z-Wave is usually also a repeater. And so there's always these two logical prongs going in, one incoming and one outgoing at least, and a routing table going in within. So there's this process of joining a network. There's always a controller around. There can be multiple controllers actually, but there's always a controller around, and that controller, its purpose is to set these commands of let's join the network, let's open the network for joining, let's open the networks for, that's called inclusion, let's open the network for exclusion, and to allow leaving it. One of the things that needed to be tackled early on is, okay, so I have this device, it's been included in the past in a network, but now I've left that network, I've moved it now to a new network, or I had to reset the network for some reason. What do I do? So there's the initial process of pairing is always, let's make sure first to exclude things. We're setting the network into exclusion mode. The moment you're setting the network into exclusion mode, when you activate exclusion mode on the device, even if it's not part of this network, it will exclude from internally, it'll reset the state of the network. And that's the situation you were stuck in. The QR code you're talking about, that's part of the S2. S1 is Series 1, Software 1, something. And S2 is the new generation of Z-Wave. They are usually backward compatible. They can, S1 can work with S2 controllers, etc. And those QR codes are basically accurate identifiers to allow exchange of encryption keys between the controller and the device, and that will make sure that nobody can impersonate your controller and control it, control that device. In a commercial setting, it'll be very important, right? If you're using the automation to drive, highly sensitive areas, or you're trying, you are going to be attacked, right? Then that's very, very important. But in general, using unencrypted S2 or unencrypted S1 connection is not a problem. Sorry, S0. So S0 is the unencrypted. There's S2 unencrypted, and there's S1. S is for security. So it's a security level.
If I pull up my Home Assistant and look at it, there is not security. There is not security on this device. At least it doesn't show.
Yes, that's because you joined it without the QR code in default mode. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which is that? So, I guess my question for you is, and you already answered this for me, but for the audience, is that a problem?
Again, so it really depends on the environment you're setting up and the importance of that device. So let's say if that was a lock for your door,
That would be
I
a
would
problem.
say
Yeah.
do whatever possible to make sure that the security is set, right? Still, the chances are, I mean, we have yet to see hackers, right, go around with some Z-Wave hardware, like some sort of jerry-rigged Raspberry Pi with a Z-Wave controller and try to manipulate a Z-Wave network into the submission. But I'm guessing that exists. I'm guessing if it doesn't exist as because it's not widespread enough yet, in actuality in the world, it might exist as research, right? So I'm sure somebody's thinking about it, right? Because the fact that we're talking about it means somebody else already thought about it, right?
Yeah.
That's the reality of the world.
Let me see if I can do a little demo here. So I've got my water sensor, which is, by the way, this is what it looks like. It's a tiny little thing. It's got four little prongs on four little pads on the back that obviously are electric, and if it detects water, it alerts. So that's that you're seeing right there. That's my my phone. And if I got a wet cloth here, and if I tap these two things,
Where did
see that right there? Water alert, water detected near hot water heater. And that's Home Assistant notifying me on my phone that, hey, this sensor just went off. There's been hot water detected. So that's a little demo of how I've got it set up so that if I'm not home, you can get a standard alarm system, like a water alarm, but if you're not home, that doesn't do you any good. So that's what I've got set up, and it seems to be working really well.
What kind of battery is in that
That's
thing?
a little demo of how kind of simplistic that a system like that can be, and it works really well.
What kind of battery is in it?
CR 2302 or something.
Oh, so
CR
it's
2310. Yeah, it's a watch battery.
Yeah.
What's the
It's a 2032.
Yeah.
What's the life of expectancy of the life of the battery?
It doesn't say. Some people on Amazon say the battery died within a month, which doesn't make sense. It sleeps for 12 hours at a time, according to the manual. And it only checks in. Mine just checked in. But
it checked in because you had it
because there was an alert. Yeah, I don't believe it. I've seen it go over a day without checking it. So I think it's fine. And right now the battery's at 100%.
Wait. I want to understand. So if it goes 12 hours without checking, what happens if you get a leak?
So it works. It's the most simple sensor in the world.
Doesn't need to check in. It just turns on when there's an alert. When there's something
okay. So it turns
because those two prongs that are going out, those are metal prongs. The moment you have a shortcut between them, right? That's when it alerts. So that's when you have a charge.
So it's not like it's going.
So right now the unit is off. Right now, I mean, there's nothing going on with it. It's just it's sitting dormant. And the second that there's something that goes on, again, I could put a metal wire between these two things. It would do the same thing. The second I do that, the unit wakes up and goes, okay, the condition has been met, short. And then in Home Assistant, I've labeled the device as hot water. I've labeled it as a water heater, or where it is, and the name is water heater leak. And then I've set up a notification for my phone, or I built a notification into Home Assistant to alert my smartphone with the Home Assistant app when that condition is met. So I don't know what the battery life's going to be like. The good news is the 2032s are cheap and easy to get. And there is some settings in here. The configuration on these things are odd. There's a lot in there, and it's not all very user intuitive. But
that is correct.
But it definitely can be. And there's a threshold for it. For example, the battery locates low at 20% is when the battery will alert that it's low. And I also have an alert set up for that. So my Home Assistant will send me a notification, hey, my water sensor battery is running low. At least it should. So we'll have to see how that works. So yeah, there's on-off periods, there's delays, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. The wake up right now interval is set to 1, which I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what the 1 means.
Maybe 1 and 0. Oh, wake up mode?
Yeah, which I assume is when it wakes up to check in. But prior to, I should have checked before I did it. I checked the other day and it went a whole day without checking in, which is what you want. You don't want it to check in. It doesn't need to. So it works out well.
Bill is asking if you're running it on a Raspberry Pi or Windows.
So I'm doing it on neither. I'm running the Home Assistant. Correct me here. Home Assistant has their own OS. They're essentially their own image. And I use so I've got I've got a Lenovo computer that I run Proxmox on, which is a virtualization environment. So it's a single piece of hardware. It's one box. And I've got an Ubuntu VM, which is separate, a Windows 10 VM, which is separate, and then a Home Assistant VM. So it's running on a Linux container. And it's its own thing that's run.
So yeah, there are a few flavors for Home Assistant. You can run Home Assistant as a Windows application. You can run it as a Linux application. You can also run it as something called supervised in Docker containers, but the supervised version must run on a Debian system. That's the only way they support the supervised one, and they have their own OS distribution specifically for the supervised version, and that will also mean the Home Assistant, Web UI, and all that controls the OS updates as well as its own updates. So the supervised version is a complex architecture of containers, Docker containers that can update itself and you can add add-ons really easy to it. So the recommended way to run it is either as a VM with their OS or a Raspberry Pi with their OS, or Debian running the container, the supervised version of it, and it runs very well. Yeah,
I did originally have it set up on my Raspberry Pi, and then I moved it off of that for. I think I just talked with you, Gal, and you said, "Hey, if you've already got a Proxmox instance, it makes sense to run it there instead of the Pi." But what I do use is I do have a Raspberry Pi set up right here, right above my camera, and it's set to the Home Assistant dashboard, and it just I'll take a picture of it, and it's just a 17-inch Acer monitor, and it just sits there, and it's my Home Assistant dashboard, so I can always look up and see what's going on all of my stuff. And for wondering what it looks like inside of Home Assistant, here are my two devices. The first device here is my controller, which looks like an old USB mouse thing, one of those big USB sticks, like similar to a Fire TV stick or something. And then here is my water sensor, the Zeus. And there's all of these different things down here, the configurations and things like that. And you can even see if I.
So one of the things I can already recommend, right, to you, if you switch to the configuration, to the Home Assistant configuration view, not the Z-Wave one, and you go to the device through devices there, you go to the device of your sensor, you can, there's a configure service, configure device. You can do all of that from the Home Assistant
Yeah, so here it is.
Yeah, so you see the top one, configure device?
Uh-huh.
The first link there? Yeah,
Yep.
you can control all of this from within, and these are supposedly a bit more user-friendly than what you see in the Z-Wave controller.
And
So
you can
just
see here, and here's the automation I have set up for it, which is water heater alert. And that automation is simple. It's a device trigger, the device water heat, and when water heat leak, water alarm, water leak detected becomes moist, which is the condition. Moist is the condition.
yeah.
And then I've got it set here to set a notification to my cell phone. You can see all of the entities here. Let's see if I can zoom in on that for a second. Actually show you what it does. So right now the water sensor is off, obviously, because there's no water. But if I put a napkin on it, you'll see that water heat leak water just turned to on. And then the water heat leak is wet. And if I take it off, you'll see it go off and then to dry. So it's very, very quick how it works. And that's how then this is then the automation side. It's not really automation, but that's how the alerting and things like that work. It's really, really cool. This is really neat. This is really cool. It's got me, it's got my wheels a turning. It's got me itching. It's a really cool, and the barrier to entry is very inexpensive. The controller's $50. This guy was 20 something. My next thing is smoke alarms. First Alert makes some Z-Wave smoke alarms. That'll be my next thing.
Yeah, I got those.
We'll go from there. So it's cool.
Yeah.
It's really neat. You're gonna like this when you get it worked up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, Amnon, you're next.
Yeah, I'm next.
Stop being
yesterday,
stop being a boomer.
Yesterday, Sarid was, we were texting, and he said, if you need any help with the functions of the Home Assistant, let me know. I'll help you. And I said, hey, I can turn it on and off myself. It's fine. Because that's the only thing I can do with it now.
So it's cool. And going forward, once you get more and more devices, and I believe this is what Gal's got set up, when you've got more and more devices, you can start automating certain devices if a condition is met, do this based on this, and so on and so forth. Like, for example, in Home Assistant, since I have a Honeywell smart thermostat, I've got an integration with my Honeywell thermostat into Home Assistant. So I could set up automation, and I also have a home weather system that's outside that's also in Home Assistant. I could set parameters for outside temperature to automatically change things on my HVAC unit and things like that. Home Assistant is kind of the building block, or Home Assistant is kind of the background, and you put all of these little building blocks on it, and you can have those things interact with each other. Because right now, I don't have any way to make my AccuWeather outdoor weather system interact with my thermostat. There's no integration. Home Assistant links those two things together and gives me that integration. That's Home Assistant is just a big integrator for all intents and it doesn't even have to be. Prior to this, I didn't do any integration with it at all. I just used it as a dashboard to check things out, which it does a great job at too.
And God, yesterday evening when I was talking with Nick about this problem with the heat, and he was turning the unit off and on, I was asking, can't you just get Home Assistant to turn the system off? And turn it on once every 2 hours, leave it on for half an hour, and then turn it off again. So at least
for sure. For sure you can do it.
Okay. That was it.
For some reason, I'm having an issue with my Honeywell integration. And I don't know if it's because of my issue with my heating unit right now, but I keep losing. I have to keep restarting Home Assistant for it to update the status of my HVAC system, which is odd. But I'm not sure if that's related to my current issue. And then I'll show this briefly.
Well, maybe it's time to switch the thermostat to something not Wi-Fi based, like Honeywell.
Yeah, well, it was always working. I might just need to dump the integration and re-add it. And then this is what my dashboard looks like. I have a little screen in my office that shows this. This is my outdoor temperature from a weather system transmission for, of course, downloading Linux distros, up and down, Plex, my Google Calendar, the thermostat, weather, and then pings a couple of web servers and make sure that they're all running. So yeah, it's cool. I love it. I've had Home Assistant set up for probably close to a year, but this is the first time I've done anything with it.
Other
And
than
I'm
weather.
hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and even with that, I wasn't doing anything. It was just looking at it. I mean, that's all it was. So thank you, Gal. Thank you for this has got my my nerd itching, which is good.
Yeah. My itch currently is when you were away, we talked about it, is I've switched away from Windows.
Did you watch the Linus Tech Tip series that they just did?
No, haven't watched him in a while. I'll
You
check
should.
him out.
I believe it was a 3-part series. Luke, who was an early member of Linus Tech Tips, and Linus himself, they both switched their home rig to Linux for a month, and the goal was be able to do all of the things that they currently do, which is they live stream from home, and it was a very good series. Yeah. And there were some issues. For example, I'll just give you the one. Linus has got a device called a Mix XLR, which is a streaming device that's got faders and whatnot. There's no Linux drivers, and you can't configure it. So he had to create a Windows VM inside of Linux to set it and then dump out. So there were issues. And the long story short, I don't want to spoil the series, but the long story short is it can be done, but it's just not quite there yet for the average person. It can very well be done. And
I would agree. I would agree. This is my experience as well, but it is exciting. I didn't think I'll enjoy. I remember my previous iterations of testing a Linux desktop, and it would always, even with the extra configuration, it was always something off. Like I'll get an image editor, but it will be so quirky, or the resolution won't be right, or there'll be something a bit off. My experience now is this is mostly no longer the case. There are still issues. I mean, right now the whole audio video setup I'm doing is through a Windows laptop while I'm looking right now. That's why I have 2 sessions looking through the Linux machine. So I'll need to figure that out, and it'll take me a couple of tweaks. But overall, hey, I mean, even gaming, like Windows, Epic Games, all that stuff. It was so easy to install, so easy to configure, so easy to run. I didn't need to do extra steps. For anyone coming into this without a lot of experience in Linux, right? For it's literally just going into a software store, installing something, and running it, and it's pretty exciting. It's I don't think I've been excited about Linux this desktop for such a long time, and I really like the experience.
I just posted the link in chat to the playlist. It's a 4-part series.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
And there's even one of the things which is cool. It's called Trying to Do Simple Tasks, and it's 10 tasks that we can all do relatively easily now. And it's the interesting thing is to see how there's a whole bunch of different ways that things like that can be handled on Linux. Some are quick, some are easy, some are a little bit more complicated. So I thought it was a very, very useful series.
Yeah.
So, and it was very popular. I mean, the videos have 3 to 4 million views a piece. So it's cool. Excellent. It's getting there. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so for daily
you'll
tasks,
notice some of those big issues.
For daily tasks and gaming, at least casual gaming, I wouldn't say hardcore, because I'm pretty sure that newer games will need a lot more tweaking to get to work, unless it's a Steam game that already has Linux support out of the box. So
Well, but here's the thing, though. That's going to be changing because Linux
because
is
of the
Steam Deck, which is which is Steam's foray into a console, or at least their second attempt into an actual console.
Yeah.
Which runs on, I believe it's Arch is the back end of it. I could be wrong. That's a Linux device, and they're saying that they expect 99% compatibility with the Steam library. And that will be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah. It will be very interesting, but yeah, it's definite. That part is definitely there. I mean, I do not intend to make this machine a dual boot. It's going to remain Linux only. If it's going to work, then I mean, I might need to run things over a VM,
which is fine.
Which is fine. Yeah, it definitely is. I can say for sure that the next version I'm using right now, the 2004, I talked about it when you were away, the 2004 LTS based Ubuntu. The next version will support something called libvirt 7, the next generation of the KVM, the kernel virtual machine drivers in Linux. And in those, the support for running stuff like Windows 10 OS with the 3D acceleration through the host video card works a lot better than this one. The past 1.5-2 years have done major strides in the realm of virtualization. So I will be able to run on a Windows VM almost anything I need to allow me control that I didn't have. The audio video world is also changing. There's a completely new audio paradigm. There used to be a lot of different components that you needed to use in order to get, a proper audio setup that you need, especially for streaming and sharing stuff from one application to a Zoom session, for example, right? So you'll need there's something called pulse audio and jack and all that, and you need to configure all of that. It's a lot easier today with something called Pipewire, which isn't it's not production ready yet, but I've installed it and it's working pretty nice. So things are definitely gearing towards it. There's still issues, and I'm guessing we're gonna say there's still issues with Linux for the entirety of this. These are still open source projects. There are still community driven projects, most of them. Some of them have real professional and real interest and some commercial fuel behind them, but I do think it's a viable alternative. And let's say if you're raising a family, if you're the IT person for a family, and you have a bit of understanding and you want a lot more of control over what you're running, I would definitely recommend switching the family over to Linux. One thing you're gonna lose, and there's no ifs and buts, no ifs about it, is you're gonna lose Microsoft Office. There is no way to natively run Microsoft Office in Linux. It'll be either a VM or a dual boot. But if you can live without Microsoft Office, you can live with an alternative Office solution. Probably everything else is possible.
Or use Office 365 on the web. Those web apps are very good.
Yeah. Again, as long as you do not need Microsoft Office installed locally, right? If you can deal with LibreOffice or web-based solutions, then you're good to go. So,
yeah, it took years and years, but it's finally getting closer.
I think it's there for desktop use. I really wish, you know what? So one of the things I was concerned was because I use this machine to connect to work, and those connections to work, they're not just an RDP session. There's a lot of security going on between them, and these applications, right? They exist for Linux. They run on Linux. They run very well. I connect to my secure machine at work. I work with it. I'm using a 4K screen, dual screens, um, and there wasn't any friction in this. I could do everything that I need to do, right? And so, I mean, even the USB pass through to the remote machine to run a video conference through that, everything worked, right? So, in terms of uh, accessibility to the tools that I needed to use and all that, it's like it's there. It's definitely there, and it looks nice and it's customizable, and the amount of control you have over the system is amazing. And I really wanted this. I mean, you can get all of this on Windows. Don't get me wrong. Windows is a great machine. Mac OS is okay as well. I don't have a lot of experience with it, right? I know I don't want to use Mac because with Mac, uh, it's an all or nothing affair. With Windows, they are going towards an all or nothing affair, and that doesn't sit well with me as well. And the customization that goes on with Windows, you can achieve it if you buy into some systems, and they usually are buggy and stuff. I mean, if I want customization and I want it well, even with a few bugs, right? I'd rather do it on an open system where I have a lot of more control, and I can consult with a community that actually cares about these things. So um, I I love it. I'm enjoying every minute.
Good. Bill asks, what virus protection is used in Linux?
None. There are no. I mean, the only way to actually break your system by malicious content is to allow it to run as root, something that cannot be done under the radar in any way. So it's not as if there aren't any malicious actors in the Linux world. It's just the concept of it is completely different. What virus protection are you running on your Android machine? None.
On your phone, yeah, none.
Yeah, it's different. It's a different architecture. So the whole concept of viruses, while it does exist, the constant scanning for it, the constant pushing back from it is unnecessary.
Well, even in Windows, it's the same thing.
I think it's
right?
the same with Mac, right? Or
yeah, but
Mac
it's the same thing on Windows too. You can't, if you go to a website and download something malicious, you have to execute it and give it permission to do something. And
well, yes, but when you're looking,
it's much
for
more user friendly on Windows to accidentally allow a malicious thing to get access. I mean, if you download a bad executable, like a virus.exe, and if you don't run it, it's not going to affect your computer. But if you give it permission, if it opens up and says this program would like to make changes to your computer, yes or no, and you click yes, well, you've now given it access. The virus itself didn't. I'm sure there are viruses that can self-execute things. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of the time it's you having to double click and run something that is in fact malicious. Root can't install
interact with it.
But one thing I can say, Bill, one thing I can answer to your question is the second reason I don't need it in my particular setup right now is the entire reason I chose to switch to Linux, and that is that versatility that I can go back and forth with the system state, with my file, my personal data state. I can go back and forth. Even if I've installed, even if I'll go and do the equivalent of a format C right now, right? If I do remove all from my system recursively, I can still restore back to my previous state because I'm using a copy on write file system as the boot system. This is that powerful, right? And so I'm not worried about crypto lockers.
But guys,
right?
let's answer Bill. There are antivirus programs for Linux.
I guess I don't know that word.
I know Sophos does one.
Sophos does do one. Yeah, I know that.
And there are some.
Yeah, and most of the viruses they are scanning are Windows viruses, so that you don't have in your storage something that might affect another system. It's not about protecting the system from access or something like that, right? So,
yeah, on at Delta Force on all the servers, we're running an antivirus on the mail server, so it removes viruses that it recognizes before the customer gets them. Yeah. So there are
all of the
some,
major ones, they have an engine for Linux, but it's not about protecting the Linux system.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Here is something. You remember the Y2K bug, right?
Are you talking about the Honda Y220 bug?
You want to talk about it?
I saw this. No, I saw the headline. I didn't read it.
Honda and Acura owners around the world are reporting that their clocks and calendars are getting stuck at a certain time in the year 2002. The spread is impressive, impacting Honda and Acura models as old as 2004 and as new as 2012. There is no fix for the current issue. Honda says it's investigating, and if it does not find a fix, the clock should correct themselves sometimes in August. As a number of Honda and Acura owners have noted on these forums, their clocks read correctly until what appeared to have been the first time update of 2022. So 2022 screwed them up. The navigation then.
I think they missed it by 10 years. It was supposed to be 2012, no?
It just messed them completely up.
That's funny.
So so if you see that your clock is off, you have to wait and see if there is a fix. If there isn't, I wonder what happens if you go and you set it yourself. I don't know. Anyway, here's something new that I wonder if it'll take off. CharaChorder or CharaChorder is a new kind of typing peripherals that promises to let people type at superhuman speeds. It's so fast that the website MonkeyType, which lets user participate in typing challenges and maintain its own leaderboard, automatically flagged the CEO as a cheater when he attempted to post his 500 words per minute score on its leaderboard. It's a strange-looking device, the kind of thing Keanu Reeves would interface with in John and Mnemonic. Your palms rest on two black divots, out of which rise 9 different finger-sized joysticks. The 18 sticks move in every direction, and website claim can hit every button you need on a regular keyboard. Its switches detect motion in 3 dimensions, so users have access to over 300 unique inputs without their fingers breaking contacts with the device. Users input words and commands by clicking the switches in different directions. CharaChorder claims that once a user learns how to type with a machine, they can achieve speeds impossible on a QWERTY keyboard. Most people type around 40 words per minute. Skilled typists hitting upwards of 100 words per minute. Competition typers can break into the 200 words per minute. And Riley King, the CEO of CharaChorder, is posting TikToks where he's hitting speeds above 500 words per minute. 500 words per minute. But it's nothing like a keyboard. It is not a keyboard. It's a strange device. And if you want to look for it, it's CharaChorder or CharaChorder. See,
Well, I think you're missing something.
but
So I'm looking at their site.
Yeah.
And yes, they have the CharaChorder, but the news is they're introducing CharaChorder Lite, which looks like a regular keyboard and works. So the whole idea behind the keyboard is you're typing chords, like playing chords on a guitar.
mhm.
So you're using multiple fingers to type something. So there's definitely training that needs
Oh,
to
I'm
go
sure.
into
Yeah.
this, right? Which I'm sure is fine. But so the CharaChorder Lite is the one, I think, talking about the 500% more efficient. Interesting. I wonder if you need the special keyboard or it can be done with software with a regular keyboard.
I don't know. I mean, they're
Well,
they
they're
when
selling the keyboard for $200.
when I
So
was reading it and on the website they were showing that weird uh device. I didn't read
yeah,
much, but I just went to look at it. Wow,
yeah.
that's completely
I wonder
different.
what the learning curve is, though.
Oh, it
It's
must
all
be.
nice, but the learning curve. I mean, the real problem that the real reason we're stuck with QWERTY, right, is because there's no learning curve. It's ubiquitous. But if we'll give a kid a
Yeah,
different and raise
and
them on a
start 'em.
different keyboard,
Mhm.
they'll make do with any keyboard.
Yeah.
And QWERTY is by definition not the most efficient one, right? Because QWERTY was designed to prevent fast typing causing typewriter slides to stick, right? When it was mechanical. So the typewriter fan, when you had proficient typists typing, because at the beginning they tried just an alphabetical order on the keys, and uh, when they tested it with typists, with proficient typists who knew how to type very fast, the fans they would stick, they would get stuck, and one of the designs behind QWERTY is how to make it less efficient and slow down the typer from being to prevent the keys to get stuck,
The collision
uh,
between them.
the collision. So the chord typing is definitely something that is taking it a step further, right? But it's about uh, it's more about learning how to type differently. So I wonder if whatever they're doing is achievable with a regular keyboard. I mean, gamers, they type chords while they're playing on keyboards, right? So maybe this can be a software thing, and that is interesting. I think that's even more
No,
interesting than buying a specialized keyboard.
I don't know. It's
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, it's that time of day again, guys. We have to end the show. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? Okay, and Bill is asking you guys a question.
Oh,
What?
you want the zoos, I presume.
Well, he says, what
Yeah.
$50 Z-Wave?
So if you're focusing on Z-Wave, right now the Zeus is probably the most popular one, most supported one, and the company Zeus, they are they're great. They have fantastic technical support. So,
and instead of them just making the controller, they also make some devices. Now they don't make every device under the sun, but they do make some of their own devices: power strips, plugs, that water sensor that I showed. So you can get a couple of their devices, and they all seem to be pretty inexpensive. They have motion sensors and plugs and things like that. So, they have a siren that you can get.
Okay.
And check out, there's a website that has an enormous slew of Z-Wave solution called the Smarter Home. That's the free shipping is only offered for very large orders, like above $100 and stuff like that. But they're still they're probably the best resource.
Because not everything's available on Amazon.
Yeah, or it's hard to find. The Smart Test Home. I'll let me
Smarter
just check.
smarthome.com, I think is the site.
Damn.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we need to make a list.
No,
and
not
post it on the
smarthome.com.
website.
Oh, it's not them.
That's another one.
That's the one that I use as kind of my resource.
Yeah, there is the Smartest House. The Smartest House. The smartesthouse.com. They are a very, very well established. The community loves them. They are good with the community. Definitely recommend looking at the offers there. Sometimes they sell Zeus devices lower than what the Zeus site does. So, yeah.
Yeah, the stick is cheaper there. It's only $27 there. It's 30.
But remember, you need to pay shipping unless you make a very large order, like $100 or above. So for a single device, you wouldn't go there. But to research whether a device supports something or whether there's updated firmware to the devices and stuff like that, this is one of the best resources.
Julio.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
Nada.
Then let's end this. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
And thank you, Gal.
Thank you.
And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Dina, Arlette and Micha, Eleanor, Sarid. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick does his show on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM in Wilmington. You can always listen to it anywhere in the world live through your Echo. And you can always listen to the recordings, and they are at nickcraig.com. And Tuesday at 7 p.m., again, Nick and Brian do their Infection podcast, one word, Infection podcast, on Twitch. So just go to, that's for survival games. Just go to twitch.tv/Infection podcast. Tuesday evening at 7. We'll see ya.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.